So on the last live stream, we played around with this Resiners Airless vacuum degassing machine. They contacted me and asked if I wanted to try it out. I was like, sure, why not? So they sent me a unit. Now I just want to disclaim everything. They sent this for free. I didn't pay for it, but just for the purpose of kind of trying it out, and I'm sharing with everybody else. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be giving one of these away. They sent another one and said, hey, you want to do a giveaway? I said, yes. Sure, send me two. So a brand new one in box, it's not even a used one, is going to be up for grabs. So stick around till the end to see how to get entered. Now, for what we did, if you missed the live stream, we made a magnifying lens. This is one of the Philip Danner molds, and I'm super excited that I actually got to finally use this. I haven't used it yet. We used Amazing Clear Cast Plus in this one, which is a pretty thick viscosity resin. And I wanted to kind of see how did it do with the thicker, resin. So that was the first one. The second one, we actually used Alumilite Clear Slow, which typically I don't recommend even thinking about vacuum with that. But for this type of project, it's a smaller amount of resin and, not that big of a deal. I thought, let's give it a shot. I really didn't have high hopes because the problem is this is such a quick setting resin that vacuum takes too long usually. But we ran it in this machine for 5 minutes and it poured it. And to be honest, it actually got most of the air bubbles out. It is a thinner viscosity resin than the Amazing Clear Cast. It's pretty thin in the world of resins. So it worked pretty well, and I'm excited to see how these results turned out here. So just a couple of notes if you didn't see the live stream or didn't catch all of it, just to let you guys kind of know where this fits in with me. For most things that I do, making pen blanks, turning blanks, those types of things, this is really not going to be something that I'm going to employ much because we're usually waiting till the end of the working time where the resin's starting to really thicken up before we even pour it. If you're trying to mix colors together, you have to wait until the end of the working time so that they don't just bleed out. And so really pressure is going to be a better option for that type of casting because it works instantaneously. We're at the end of the working time. I need to get this thing in there and just, it crushes basically compacts the air bubbles until they're gone. Vacuum works the opposite way as pressure. Vacuum is going to make them expand. And so it's trying to, grow them and have them pop. The problem is this works slowly. It doesn't work instantaneously. It's going to be kind of, make them expand and it basically looks like your resin is like foaming up. And that just doesn't really work for the type of castings that I typically do. Now, for doing jewelry and things where you're just pouring it in a mold and, kind of letting it sit, a lot of times you'll be using longer working time resins for that type of thing. You're doing just clear. This is a pretty good option for that because the way it works, you're going to mix up your resin and that's where most of the bubbles get, formed basically is when you're mixing. And you put your cup after mixing it up in this thing. It sucks most of the air bubbles out, then you pour. All right, so just one thing, this is not going to remove every single air bubble in your casting. It's going to get most of them out. And then the idea is hopefully once you've poured it, compared to if you hadn't vacuum degassed your resin, there shouldn't be very many air bubbles in your casting, in the mold after you've poured it in the mold. And then you let them just trickle up and then pop them with a flame. So basically that's how this works. Like I said, this isn't something that I'm going to really use a whole lot for most of what I do, but I'm happy they sent it out. It's actually a pretty cool machine, and I'll give you some thoughts after we demold this, a little bit more of who this is for and my thoughts about this, because there's the alternative is, this is basically just vacuum degassing. It's like a vacuum pump, a vacuum chamber. All right, I already have many of those because I do stabilizing and I also do work with silicones. And so I already have, full-size vacuum pumps with big chambers and all that kind of stuff. So I basically have one of these in more of a bigger, heavier duty size, basically, right? So that's what I want to kind of talk about is, who should you get one of these? Who's this for kind of thing. So we'll talk about that. I'll give you the pros and cons of this thing and kind of compare it to some of the other things at the end. And don't forget the giveaway. But I think at this point, let's pop these guys out. Let's take a look at these. I'm going to try and get some pretty good shots and really make sure that the camera is showing you what I'm seeing. If there's bubbles and things going on, I'm going to try and capture that. It shouldn't be too hard. They're both clear. So let's get the cameras in and let's pop these guys out of the mold. All right, so let's start with the magnifying lens first. So I'm just going to kind of peel this away a little bit. Let's see if we can just let it pop right out. There we go. I can feel it moving around in there. I have to give it a little bit of a, it's loose. Maybe a little bit of air. No, there we go. All right, so we got that one. And this one will be even easier. Maybe. Now, I didn't use any mold release on these. So it seems, there we go. Okay, so we got 2 castings here. All right, so you can probably see there's like a couple little air bubbles in there. I'm trying to get shots where you can see down in there. There's a good shot. See those? There's like a couple, and they're on the surface. If I can get a shot here, it's hard on camera to get it to show. But I mean, for the most part, you know, it's going to be sitting on your desk like this. There's a couple. I can see some spots on the top. There's like, you know, one here. There might have even been a couple little dust particles in the mold. But for the most part, there's not very many. There was even a couple on the surface, which I wasn't paying as much attention. You know, had I maybe not been doing a live stream, if I was doing this on my own, I might have been a little bit more, you know, with the flame. But I mean, there's not that many air bubbles. It's pretty good. And this was the thicker resin that had a lot more air bubbles before we poured. Now, just to keep in mind, that doesn't mean that the machine didn't work or that you're going to have a significant amount of bubbles. They're still going to have time to raise up, and you can pop them with a lighter or whatever. So you're still going to get the majority of them out, but you know, there are some in there, but they're very small, and unless you're really paying attention to this thing, there's not that many really. And it looks pretty cool. So pretty happy with it. Now for the coaster, there are a couple. Now this is the top surface. There's quite a few on the top, and I really didn't pop as many bubbles as I should have. This was the faster setting resin, and I was like talking and not paying attention. So there are a few on the surface that I don't think would have been there had I been a little bit quicker with, you know, or paid more attention while we were casting it. Now on the bottom, there are a couple down here, but again, not a big deal. And I think the big thing with this, you know, one of the problems with just kind of pulling these out and saying, okay, here's the results, is we're not comparing this to anything. And so realistically, what I need to do is pour some Alumilite Clear slow without doing the degassing in here, right? And then we need to look at the results and compare them. Same thing. I need to mix up some Amazing Clear Cast, don't degas it, and then pour it in there and see what the results are. All right, so overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I think that it works as advertised. It did its job. You know, it's really hard to get every single little bubble out of these things. But the big thing about this is there's no big air bubbles. Like the only things that are left are like kind of like the micro bubbles. And frankly, there's not that many in here. I think, I mean, I could sit here and stare at this thing for hours and find, you know, point out, you know, more blemishes here and there. But clear castings are tough in the first place, and some things might have been actual dust particles. That's actually a big problem too. You got to kind of watch what's falling in, because like the tiniest little dust particle in the air, if it falls in the resin, it's going to be visible in the end. So it's difficult to get a perfect casting in the first place, and I think that, you know, sucking the air out, that's what this thing does. It sucked the air out, and I was able to pour. So overall, not too bad. Now, let's talk about, you know, this thing versus, you know, a full vacuum chamber setup with pump and all that stuff. You know, again, this thing is really going to be for people that are doing smaller things. If you want to do some coasters, you want to do, you know, little you know, these types of molds. Make a little magnifying glass, make jewelry, make smaller kind of projects in silicone molds where you pop it out and that's what it is. Those types of projects where you're not really doing any work to it. You know, you're not going to be turning it and sanding and doing all this different stuff. I think this is good for popping it out of the mold, and it is that thing. That's what it's going to be good for in smaller things. You know, obviously you can't fit. We really tried fitting, you know, what's the biggest container we could fit in here, and it's not very big. Like 16-ounce cups, you could fit a few 8-ounce cups, but the other problem is you can't fill the cup to the brim or else it's going to overflow once it starts doing the vacuum thing. So, you know, you're kind of limited. It's for smaller projects, let's just say. But for 150 bucks, you take this thing out of the box, you plug it in, and it works. There's no messing around with plumbing. It's very quiet. This is something that I didn't think about when we were using this thing. It's super quiet. There's no noise. Now, if I plug in my normal vacuum pumps, I don't know what the decibel level is, but I don't want to be standing next to it all day. It's just annoying. It's super loud. So, you know, that's something to think about. If you're doing stuff, you know, small scale, you don't want something loud and obnoxious and a bunch of things, you know, like a pump and also vacuum chambers and all these different things. This is a good one. You know, like I said, in perspective, it's a pretty decent, I think, little vacuum chamber for people to use. Now, like I said, there's other options out there. You can get setups with the pumps and you know, whatever size like vessel you want. So if you're doing bigger stuff, then you're going to have to step it up and get like a full setup. But if what you're going to be doing, you know, and think about the mixing cup mostly, if that can fit in here, I think it's a decent option. Now, the other thing is if you're going to do like stabilizing, wood stabilizing, and you're going to get into, you know, making silicone molds and doing all that stuff, this isn't really, that's not what this is for. You know, go get a full vacuum setup so that you can get, you know, whatever you need to put in there inside it, like a larger type thing. And it's also going to work faster. It's probably going to be a little bit more powerful, I would say. But this thing did a pretty good job. I really can't fault it. It's simple. It's relatively cheap. It's not super cheap. I think it was about 150 bucks on Amazon. Not super cheap, but it's not like ridiculously overpriced. And it looks like an ice cream maker, so I like it. So anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts. I don't think there's anything else. If you guys have any questions, you know, again, I'm not really an expert. I don't do a lot of this type of casting, jewelry and things like that. I make pen blanks for the most part, turning blanks and stuff. And so, you know, this isn't exactly my wheelhouse, but if you have any questions, you know, if you think it would be right for a certain application, I'll try to answer as best I can down in the comments. Let's see here. Is there anything else that I need to do? So again, I do think that we did a test, but there's nothing to really compare to. So I think what I'm going to do is today, right after I make this video, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some Amazing Clear Cast, and I'm not going to mix fiercely. I'm going to try to not make as many bubbles as I did mixing it on, you know, on the live stream. Try my best to avoid bubbles, but there's almost no way to avoid bubbles altogether with the Amazing Clear Cast. And I'm just going to pour it in there. I'm probably not going to even add the red or anything. I'm just going to pour some Amazing Clear Cast in here, and that way we can see what did this do. You know, compare it. If you didn't vacuum degas it, can you just pour it in and get the same results? That would be more telling. And then for this one, I know what the results are going to be with this. If you don't do something with your Alumilite Clear, it just sets up so fast that there's not enough time for air bubbles to release. But let's make another coaster. Oh, I got some fuzz on me. Goodness. Let's make another coaster. Let's see what happens. We'll put a few little rocks in. This time we'll do the red rocks maybe. We'll throw some Alumilite Clear Slow in there and just let it sit. I'm not going to pressurize these or do any of that kind of stuff. We're just going to, you know, do the same, let it cure in place, and then I'll probably pop some pictures up, maybe like a YouTube short type thing, and Instagram Reels. So anyway, I think that's pretty cool. Now, we're going to be giving one of these guys away. At first I was thinking about maybe giving both of them away because I do have vacuum pumps, but I think this is actually more useful. Like I'd rather pull, so this is like a perspective thing. Like I don't need this. There's no reason I would need this. And had I not gotten this for free, like I don't think I'd go out and buy this, okay? Having vacuum pumps, I already have stuff that I've paid for. But since I got this for free, and for these types of projects, I'm going to keep this because I think it is valuable when I'm doing these types of projects. I don't want to pull out a big vacuum pump and make a bunch of noise. I can pull this thing out, stick it on the desk, and plug it in and go to town. So I'm going to keep this one, but we'll give away the other one. And to get entered, that's what I got to think about. To get entered, drop a comment down below and add the word airless. Let's just do that. AIRLESS. Make sure to spell it correctly. It doesn't have to be capitalized or not, or it doesn't matter about that. But AIRLESS. Leave a comment and just put that word somewhere in your comment, and we'll go probably about a week, maybe, or maybe I'll announce the winners on the next live stream. Maybe that'll work, and we'll pick one. So there's a little picker thing. So again, make sure to spell that correctly. I'll put it up on the screen here. AIRLESS. That's the name of this thing. Make sure to spell that correctly. And the way that we're going to pick, there's a random picker from comments, and it needs to be the same exact spelling. So it's going to pick one of the comments that has that in there. So it should be pretty fun. I'm excited to get one of these in people's hands. Now, if you just want to go out and get one, or like after the giveaway's over, if you didn't win one and you think this is going to be something that you want to get, I'll leave a link to them on Amazon down in the description below. It'll be an affiliate link, so I will actually get a little bit of a commission from Amazon if you do use that link. It doesn't cost you anything. It's the same price. It just, Amazon knows that I referred you to buy one, and they'll give me a little tiny percentage, so it'll be pretty cool. So link down in the description below. I think that's about it. I don't know. I might kind of sand these edges up, these sharp edges, and we might do maybe a giveaway or something for these. I don't know. Not yet, because I got to, make some other ones and we need to compare them, but I'll have to see what we can do with these things. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed seeing the results of these. It was pretty interesting. I'm excited to do one more experiment to compare, if I don't use the airless to vacuum degas before I pour, what are the results going to be? So we'll do another one with the Amazing Clearcast in there. We'll do another one with Lumelite Clear Slow. Maybe use the red rocks this time. That'll be kind of fun. And we'll see what the results are. We're going to share the results on Saturday's live stream. So this week on Saturday, make sure to tune in to see what the results are here. We'll do that. So the streams are at noon Pacific time now. I moved them up. They used to be at 2 o'clock, but in the afternoons in the summer, it's so hot. I thought, give me a couple more hours earlier so that it's not so hot in here. So noon Pacific time, we'll get some results of that. We'll also get the results of the giveaway, whoever won the other unit. So I'll announce the winner during the stream. I think that's a good way to do it. So make sure to tune in on Saturday. But I think that's about it, guys. So, as always, thanks for watching this video, and happy casting.